He's not coming back. I can't be every girl on the internet. He's not coming back. I can't be every girl on the internet. I guess I better pack my bag. My train is at the station wagon. For he's not coming back. And I can't be every girl on the internet. Lord knows I tried to be everyone, everything for him, but he's not coming back. I guess he has the last laugh. I thought I'd tell him that I loved him, and love would be enough. I thought I'd let him know how much I cared. I thought that honesty was worth enough these days, but I guess it's not gonna work out. 'Cause I can't be every girl he sees. I can only be just me. I can't be everything that flickers his way. I can only look at him this way. So he's not coming back. I guess I just have to face that fact. He's not coming back. The train's at the station and it's left. Everyone told me to leave. They said it's not fair. Everyone told me to grieve. They said move on from here. So I guess I'm leaving. Got better things to do with my time and my grieving than sitting here crying about you. So he's not coming back. I guess I have to face that fact. No, he's not coming back. I guess I have to face